What is up everyone? Today I want to showcase the most fun team I've ran all season so far, Heliolisk, Virizion and Skeledirge. This team is based around the Heliolisk Skeledirge core, which is a surprisingly strong duo. There's really only a couple strong or common core breakers you should be worried about, like Swampert, which Heliolisk can still deal with Grass Knot, and Scrafty and Obstagoon, which Skeledirge can still deal with Incinerates and Disarming Voice. So overall, very strong duo, and to deal with those couple problem Pokemon, I got Virizion in the middle, running Sacred Sword and Stone Edge, because with that moveset it also becomes a decent pivot, being able to hit back against the flying types that you'll often see switch in. Anyway, we're just going to start with these battles, starting off with a Greedent lead. Not an amazing lead for Heliolisk, as Heliolisk is quite squishy, so it relies on getting those Breaking Swipe attack drops pretty early on in the game to take less damage from opposing moves, but since Greedent is so spammy, it's gonna get 2 moves before I can really get off a couple breaking swipes. Not ideal. I'm already gonna be in the red after this body slam. I gotta stay in there too, as Skeledirge really doesn't want to see Greedent. So normally you'd want to save Heliolisk on this team for a potential Charizard in the back, as your back 2 Pokemon don't do very well versus it when shields are up. At least when shields are down, you can Shadow Ball it or Stone Edge it to knock it out. When shields are up, it's not great. So generally, try to save Helios for this. But in this case, wasn't really possible. Anyway, I brought up Virizion versus Greedent. They instant switch into Toxicroak, which I have a response to in Skeledirge. Fine matchup here. We're going to throw a Shadow Ball, should knock him out to let it go. By the way, Toxicroak, definitely a problem Pokemon for my first 2 mons, Heliolisk and Virizion. So if I see it in the lead, it's honestly pretty problematic, but generally what I found with Toxicroak leads, it's going to be double weak to fighting in the back. So if you see a Toxicroak lead with this team, which actually I'm going to see later in this video, you just stay in Heliolisk, get the Toxicroak as low as possible, and after that, Virizion can generally sweep. Anyway, I don't really want to give up switch, so I'm going to shoot this up. What am I talking about? Give up switch, I only have 2 Pokemon. I just didn't want to use my Virizion on Toxicroak. I already had so much energy on Skeledirge, so shoot that up. Greedent comes back out, throws a body slam. At this point I'm going to over farm, throw right. Oh, actually I'm not going to throw it, I'm going to farm down. I want moves for Toxicroak. Don't think the Toxicroak's at a Sludge Bomb yet. It might be at a Mud Bomb though, which will be fine. If it isn't, I just knock it out with a Sacred Sword. I'm just going to throw a Sacred Sword right away. If I see Toxicroak come in, yeah, it does have a move, but it should only be Mud Bomb. If I counted correctly, it is just a Mud Bomb. We take that easily on Virizion, knock it out with a Sacred Sword. 2 of the Pokemon are very low though, but I do have a Shadow Ball loaded on Skeledirge, which I can do something with. Steelix though. Steelix is extremely tanky, so this could still be problematic. Pretty sure 2 Sacred Swords plus Shadow Ball doesn't knock out, unfortunately. So I'm actually gonna do a very risky play here and go for a sacrificial swap CMP catch. So wait 2 turns, switch into Skeledirge, and because I waited those 2 turns before switching, I actually CMP tied on the move with the Steelix here, which is amazing because now they have to throw a Breaking Swipe into Skeledirge, waste that energy. They are going to undercharge, which means they get 2 more Dragon Tails in here, but it's not enough because now I can farm now with Virizion. That's a very good game. Alright, Tapu Fini lead is very, very good. Out comes Skeledirge, and I don't really have a great response to this when shields are down, so I'm just going to stay in. Timing moves here is very awkward, so I didn't throw yet because I wanted to wait for him to throw, because now timing moves becomes very awkward for them and very, very good for me. You're going to see the downside of running a 5-turn move here, because if they throw their move immediately, I'm going to get a full sneak in, so they kind of have to throw 1 Incinerate before throwing their move to deny me some energy. But I'm just gonna get to my moves after 1 Volt Switch every single time. This thing, Heliolisk, is just so incredibly spammy that it didn't allow the Skeledirge to get off a move at all after I threw the first Breaking Swipe. My opponent definitely had enough energy there to throw it, and he honestly just should have. But because he didn't want me to sneak in a full Volt Switch and he didn't think I'd get to the move, he didn't. Anyway, did make a nice catch to make up for it though on the Registeel, but Registeel lock-ons do no damage, so I farm up to another Grass Knot before switching into Skeledirge. Skeledirge, very nice answer for Registeel here. Would be even better if I was running a Flamethrower, but Skeledirge is fine enough versus Registeel without a Flamethrower, so I opted to go for Shadow Ball instead, mainly to hit like Charizards in the back very hard with Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is also just a better move than Flamethrower in neutral scenarios. And we already do enough fire damage with Incinerates that I didn't think it was really needed. Just gonna farm this down with Virizion right now. Might get to another move, but no, they know it's over, so they concede the match. GG's. Giratina. Very fine matchup for Heliolisk right here. I'm gonna go straight for the move. Honestly, my opponent CMP'd here, which was wild. If you have a Giratina and you're up against Heliolisk, just throw your move immediately at 5. It's good timing. As far as Shadow Claws versus Volt Surge go, and you should be at the Dragon Claw, but turns out they might not even have Dragon Claw, because they throw Ancient Power, which is interesting. This might be an Ancient Power Shadow Sneak moveset Giratina. I'll take it. That's good for Heliolisk. But even with Dragon Claw, Heliolisk wins this matchup. They're gonna catch the Breaking Swipe on their Registeel, but this is super fine with me. I can even farm up more here if I wanted to, like get back up to another Breaking Swipe, but I'll opt not to. Instead, I just go into my Skeledirge. Virizion has a better matchup here, but whenever you see a Registeel switch in, go into your Skeledirge, I'd say, because a lot of the time they're trying to lure out a Virizion. I've noticed. I've seen a lot of Registeel switches, Swampert in the back, and in that case, you want to keep your Virizion alive, because if you get that Swampert in the back, shields up versus Heliolisk and Skeledirge, that's not ideal. You do have Grass Knot to deal with. Swampert, of course, with your Heliolisk, but 9 out of 10 times, it's not really gonna help when shields are up and they have energy. So that's why I keep Virizion for the back there. Giratina came back out. I have another move here. I'm just gonna let it go. Heliolisk can survive. At this point, I'm gonna hope that my... oh my, wow. I'm actually surprised Heliolisk survived that. But we survived. We still have the Breaking Swipe. I didn't throw it. And as you could see, it is Swampert in the back like I called. I don't have Leaf Blade, which makes this matchup a little more iffy. But even with Sacred Sword, this is, with just Sacred Sword, this is a fine matchup for Virizion, as I do resist everything Swampert can throw at me. Unless they have Sludge Wave, but generally they don't have Sludge Wave. So you're very, very fine. Even if they had Sludge Wave, you just shield and you should be fine in the 2 shields. Now I kind of have to watch out they don't catch on Giratina though. So I'm not throwing just yet. I'll let this go, because it's just going to be a Hydro. And I don't want to get hit by an Earthquake later, potentially. But I made sure they couldn't catch, and I threw the Sacred Sword. This won't knock out yet, but we'll put him into farm down range. In comes Giratina. I tried to switch and throw the Breaking Swipe, but unfortunately I switched right as the Shadow Claw damage registered, and one Shadow Claw was enough to take out my Heliolisk, which is unfortunate, but luckily I still get to the Stone Edge, and now I should be able to farm down the Swampert, and that's a good game. Alright, next match, Swampert lead. Now, Heliolisk technically beats Swampert in the 0s and 1 shields. Throw a Hydro here. I don't shield it, as I know I'll be able to get to the Grass Knot there. I don't throw Grass Knot though, expecting them to shield. And now I thought I'd be able to get to the Grass Knot. But because I didn't shield that first Hydro, I'm actually gonna get knocked out with it, which is really bad. So what I suggest you do if you're up against a Shadow Swampert in the lead, please just shield the first Hydro. Then you should be able to get to Breaking Swipe plus Grass Knot before they get to the Hydro plus Earthquake. And you should be able to win the ones. Or get both shields down, which would be ideal. Guys, if you can't get Switch, ideally you want to get both shields down with this team, as both your Pokemon are, like, decent closers, I would say. Well, they kind of rely on charge moves to take out some of their counters. For example, I am kind of expecting a Charizard in the back here now. That's a common duo, Swampert Charizard. And in that case, if I want any chance to win with Virizion, I need shields down. So getting 2 shields down with Heliolisk there would have been pretty huge. Also, I knocked out that Weezing with my Skeledirge. It might have been a mistake. I would have rather had that Weezing throw energy into my Skeledirge and then farm him down with Virizion. So I would have had the energy for this Charizard. However, I was also thinking that during the game, and I was afraid that that Weezing would still get to overheat versus my Virizion, which would have been a problem too. So it was honestly just a tough spot. But I do think in the end it would have been better if I just let my Skeledirge go down and farm down with Virizion, especially considering it is Zard in the back. I can't take it out now, but at this point the Swampert will take me out. I think if I had played that a little better, I could have won though. If I had taken 2 shields in the lead to start, I think my Virizion probably could have swept. Anyway, Toxicroak lead. I was talking about this. Again, Toxicroak lead, usually double weak to fighting in the back, so Virizion is gonna pop off if I can place it correctly. Gonna throw one Breaking Swipe, shield up this this move. Look at how low the Toxicroak's already at, actually. And I can get to another breaking swipe as well. Gonna make sure they can't catch, so I'll wait a turn here before throwing my breaking swipe. They have to shield this, or they lose switch advantage. Get off another Volt Switch. And I actually brought the Toxicroak into the red, which is very nice. Out comes Guzzlord. I'm gonna stay in there. Usually when they switch out like that, they have a better counter to whatever you have switched in the back. So even though this is not a great matchup for Skeledirge, I still hit it with a very super effective disarming voice. And I just eat the crunch here. I'm expecting Virizion to do very well in the back, so very fine. Just letting Skeledirge take a lot of damage there. Take this move, just a Dragon Claw. Toxicroak still has energy too, which is not ideal. I'm not expecting them to throw, to do a counter here. I was expecting them to come and throw immediately, which is why I did this, a double kick, hoping they'd like throw immediately, and then I sneak the double kick, but they actually threw a counter, so I wish I just threw immediately. Still though, I'm going to take out this Toxicroak here if they let this go, and if they don't, I have another Sacred Sword. They actually end up lagging here a bit though, but with what you're going to see, what's in the back, I don't think it would have mattered. Gonna be Greninja, and I get a couple free double kicks in. Get off the Sacred Sword. They're not gonna shield this because I think they're lagging a bit. They might have had their Go Plus on. If you have a Go Plus and you're playing GBL, you're gonna crash, so don't do that. But yeah, look, they're gonna throw a move now, and I'm pretty sure that even if they hadn't lagged, they wouldn't have gotten to 2 moves, and 1 doesn't knock out. So I think I would have been good. And even if that lag caused them to like no shield their Toxicroak, I would have been able to knock out Toxicroak anyway and get to a Sacred Sword on the Greninja as well. So ultimately, I don't think it mattered. Normally, I don't love leaving those kind of games in the video, but just to showcase that Toxicroak lead is definitely beatable. Anyway, Clefable lead is pretty bad for Heliolisk, especially without Thunderbolt. Honestly, man, I really wish I could run Thunderbolt Heliolisk in this team. I think Thunderbolt Heliolisk is better than Grassnot. You really only need Grassnot for one Pokemon, and that is Swampert. On everything else, everything, like literally everything else, Thunderbolt's just better. Like that matchup versus Clefable, I might have even won with Thunderbolt because it's just a better move than Grassnot on Heliolisk. It does more damage. Anyway, Flygon came into my Skeledirge. I threw a Disarming Voice, which actually did a decent amount of damage. And now I bring in my Virizion as I'm taking resistance from a Fast Moves there and Dragon Claw, even though neutral doesn't do that much. But they're definitely adding up. And Flygon is so spammy. So spammy. At this point, I don't really want to take another one. So I'm going to end up throwing a Sacred Sword here to take out the Flygon. Now, I believe they do come back in with their Clefable. They do. I'm going to throw a Sacred Sword at this point. I'm kind of expecting another Skeledirge answer in the back. Maybe Swampert is kind of what I'm expecting, but I can't really shield my Virizion. Like, even if it's Swampert, I will lose. At this point, I just have to hope that Skeledirge with a shield up can deal with whatever's in the back, but it ends up being a Politoed, and yeah, this is definitely not manageable. Double ground is definitely a bit tough. Well, actually, it's not really double ground, I guess. Politoed is not ground technically, but it has ground moves, so technically, kind of double ground is very difficult for this team to deal with, as you only really have one hard counter for it in Virizion. Okay, Gengar lead. This is really good for Heliolisk. Definitely not a Pokemon I was expecting to see, but Heliolisk with its normal typing does very well here. Does take double resisted from Shadow Claws and does a lot of damage with the Breaking Swipe. Out comes War right now. I'm gonna let this first move go. And now, I feel like this is a Virizion bait out, but if they shield this, I'm still gonna bring in Virizion, is what I'm thinking. Because I'm a shield up, and I don't end up shielding this, and then I kind of make a mistake by switching in my Virizion anyway, which I really shouldn't have done. I was like, okay, this is still fine because I can farm down, and then I can probably get a Stone Edge on the Gengar if they don't throw their energy, so I'm still okay with that, but I end up bringing Charizard, which I bait. I'm like, there's no way they no-shield this, because that would be straight up game losing, but they no-shield it. And yeah, that was honestly a mistake, because I don't get to the Stone Edge anyway. I thought I would get there, but I'm not really that confident with my Ultra League matchups right now, so I don't end up getting there, unfortunately. I think a lot of Virizions, they run a Leaf Blade, Sacred Sword. So Charizards have gotten confident at no-shielding their moves, which is why I would suggest you just straight nuke them. Just go for it. Like, I would have straight up won that game if I would have just gone for the nuke. Anyway, at this point, I still think there's a wink on if I can farm everything down with Heliolisk. I'm going to shoot a Shadow Punch though. It's double resisted, but Heliolisk, squishy, Gengar, high attack, Shadow Punch, even though double resisted, probably would almost knock me out. So yeah, going for it. Going for the Breaking Swipe on the Zard. This is a mistake. It's not. They took it. But look at that. Maybe I shouldn't have thrown it immediately. Because they threw their move immediately. And if I hadn't thrown and just gone for another Volt Switch, I would have gotten a free Volt Switch in. Which would have been really huge. Because with that Volt Switch, I think I would have been able to farm down the Zard. Yeah. So, without it, unfortunately, I was not able to farm down. The Zard can take me out. If I would have just thrown the Stone Edge earlier, I would have won this game. But without it, sadly, I lost. Okay, Dragonite lead. I always just opt to go for the Breaking Swipe immediately. This switch-in has happened several times. Registeals love catching my Breaking Swipe, but I don't care. I just build up to another one, switch into Skeledirge. Again, Virizion is the better counter here, but I'm kind of expecting them to want to bait out Virizion here, so I don't give it to them. I go into Skeledirge instead, just in case there's a Swampert in the back. And because I've debuffed them now, 2 Zap Cannons definitely don't knock me out, and I can actually just go for the Shadow Ball here and fully farm them down. I also got lucky that they didn't debuff me. If they debuff you, you might have to go for Disarming Voice to knock them out. Once you're at like double Disarming Voice. But you'll still end up with like a Disarming Voice of Energy probably, which is good enough. To bring in Dragonite here, Shadow Ball does more damage. So I'm going to go for that. Even though Disarming Voice is super effective, Shadow Ball is just a like higher damage move and stab. So it's better. Dragonite has a move now, but Heliolisk wins CMP. So go for the Breaking Swipe immediately. They shoot it up. And get to the Dragon Claw probably, or Shoot Power. I'm going to shoot that up. Again, I just really want to Breaking Swipe whatever's in the back. Heliolisk lead is just so nice because you can just spread Breaking Swipes on everything. Ends up being Virizion, which is awkward when I have an energy lead. But once I get this Breaking Swipe debuff, I'm looking really good. By the way, in this matchup, when you have your opponent like debuffed like this, you want them to stay in this matchup for as long as possible. You don't want to allow them to switch out of that matchup and clear the debuff earlier than they like need to, or then you shouldn't try to. Basically, what I'm trying to say is don't wear out their timer. So I'm trying to throw my moves as late as possible here. I got to 100 energy and threw my move, and I won't throw my next move until I get to 100 energy again. There's no point because if I do that, I just wear out their timer and I give them the opportunity to switch. Now I threw because I knew their timer was going to be up basically. And I threw it right into the Dragonite, which is actually amazing. That's amazing for me, as I need to get rid of the Dragonite anyway. I can't really farm it down. And now I just get to the Sacred Sword. Catch the next on my Heliolisk. Wasn't necessary, but I thought it was cool. So I caught it. We'll take out the Heliolisk. And now we can throw my own Sacred Sword to knock out their Virizion. That's another good game. Alright, next match. I believe this is the final one. Oh, Crobat lead. Very good. Out comes Snorlax. Do I Breaking Swipe first? No, I build up to a Breaking Swipe and then switch into Virizion. Honestly, whilst doing this, I thought this might have been a mistake. Because if this Snorlax has to 3 Body Slams before I can Sacred Sword farm him down, I might be in trouble if I go to Shield down. I probably should just Breaking Swept and dipped, honestly. It would have been a much safer play. On the other hand, though, if I do that, the Snorlax really doesn't get much damage onto my Virizion. And if the Snorlax doesn't get a lot of damage on my Virizion, then the Crobat farms me down and gets a lot of energy, which is trouble. But luckily, though, I was able to Sacred Sword farm down the Snorlax, so it ended up being an amazing play. By pure coincidence, honestly. I get the Stone Edge and Crobat too, which does a lot of damage. But then a problem Pokemon appears. It's Obstagoon, which, you know, technically should Core Break Heliolisk, Skeledirge somewhat, but really kind of doesn't. It really kind of doesn't, especially after you get a debuff like that. Night Slash does nothing. Right? Night Slash just does nothing. And a Disarming Voice would basically knock out. And look how much damage I've already done to this Obstagoon with just a Breaking Swipe and a couple Incinerates. Like, Incinerates are doing a lot here. If you can keep shields up, like Skeledirge does very, very fine. Very, very fine. Throw one Disarming Voice. I'm going to go for the next. I threw this one at bad timing. So I gave him a free counter, but that's fine. I didn't want them to be able to switch out before I threw a Disarming Voice. And if I'd done another Incinerate, they would have gotten the next Night Slash in and be able to switch out. So that's why I did that. I tried to catch the Disarming Voice, but I didn't let it happen. switch out into Heliolisk, and now I can grass not to knock out the obstagoon. They know it's going to concede the match, and that is another GG. Overall, I was quite impressed by both Heliolisk and Skeledirge. Heliolisk's ability to quickly debuff opponent's attack with Breaking Swipe is very nice, because it basically just debuffs its own and the team's defenses. And Skeledirge's coverage is just really good, as well as, I think it's not like super bulky, but it's like the exact right amount of bulk where it can survive multiple moves from Pokemon like Registeel, while still doing a nice amount of damage with Incinerate. So, two Pokemon I like, two Pokemon I definitely recommend. Though, if you do decide to build them, I do want you to know that you should proceed with caution. Both these Pokemon are quite clunky. Volt Switch, a 4-turn move, Incinerate 5-turn, and they can feel kind of hard to run sometimes. So, be aware of that. If you can get the hang of it, I think they are solid Pokemon. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Good luck with your battles, trainers.